You know what's worse than having enemies? Having family members who become your enemies. Because strangers can hurt you, but family? Family knows exactly where to aim. They know your weak spots. They remember every slight. And sometimes they hold grudges so long that their great-great-great-grandchildren are still fighting over something that happened at a family reunion 1,000 years ago. Welcome to Edom, the nation that proves your worst enemy might share your DNA. Here's the setup. Two brothers, twins actually, fighting in the womb. Genesis 25-23 records God's prophecy to their mother. Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. From day one, this was going to be complicated, but nobody expected it to get this dark. The older twin was Esau, hairy, outdoorsy, dad's favorite. The younger was Jacob, smooth-skinned, strategic, mom's favorite. Classic recipe for family dysfunction. But the real problem wasn't personality differences, it was values. Genesis 25-29, 3-4, records what might be history's most expensive meal. Esau came in from hunting, exhausted and hungry. Jacob was cooking lentil stew, and Esau said, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, for I am famished." Jacob, seeing an opportunity, said, "First, sell me your birthright." And Esau listened to this. Esau said, "Look, I am about to die. What good is a birthright to me?" Genesis 25-34 gives the editorial comment. So Esau despised his birthright, not sold it, despised it. He valued a bowl of soup over his spiritual inheritance, immediate gratification over long-term blessing, his stomach over his soul. Hebrews 12:16 calls him godless for this choice. That's not name-calling, that's diagnosis. Esau demonstrated that he had no regard for spiritual things. The Greek word used in Hebrews is bebelos. It means profane, someone who treats sacred things as common. Esau looked at his birthright, his connection to God's covenant promises, and said, "I'd rather have lunch." That's the definition of profane thinking. But the family drama was just beginning. Years later, when their father Isaac was dying and nearly blind, Jacob, with his mother's help, deceived Isaac and stole the blessing meant for Esau. Now, Esau had already sold his birthright, but this blessing was the final confirmation. And Genesis 27-41 records Esau's response. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. And Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." Read that again. Then I will kill my brother. Not, I'm angry. Not, I'll never speak to him again. Kill, murder, and notice the timing. The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Translation: as soon as Dad dies and we're done with the funeral, I'm going to kill you. That hatred became a legacy. Genesis 36-1 establishes, this is the account of Esau, that is, Edom. Esau settled in Mount Seir, southeast of the Dead Sea, and his descendants became the Edomites. The brotherly conflict became a national one. Fast forward 400 years, Moses is leading Israel out of Egypt toward the Promised Land. Their route goes near Edom's territory, and Moses sends a diplomatic message recorded in Numbers 20:14-1-7. This is what your brother Israel says. Please let us pass through your land. We will not cut through any field or vineyard, or drink water from any well. We will stay on the king's highway. We will not turn to the right or to the left until we have passed through your territory. Notice the language. Your brother, Israel. Moses appealed to their kinship. We're family. We just need to walk through. We won't touch anything. We'll stay on the main road. Edom's response in Numbers 20:18. You may not travel through, or I will come out and confront you with the sword. Not sure, family. not even pay a toll, just straight up, no, or we'll fight you. Numbers 20:21 summarizes. So Edom refused to allow Israel to pass through their territory, and Israel turned away from them. Think about what this reveals. Edom viewed Israel not as relatives but as rivals. The grudge was still alive, 4 centuries after Esau and Jacob died. That's generational bitterness. That's when hatred becomes heritage. But it gets worse. Much worse. Fast forward another 600 years to 586 BC. Babylon is besieging Jerusalem. The city is burning. People are dying. Refugees are fleeing south toward Egypt, desperate to escape. And at the crossroads stands Edom. What would you expect family to do in that moment? Offer refuge? Provide supplies? At minimum, just stay out of it? Not Edom. Obadiah 10:14 records God's indictment. Because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame and destroyed forever. On the day you stood aloof, while strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gate and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were just like one of them. You should not have stood at the crossroads to cut off their fugitives, nor delivered up their survivors in the day of their distress. Let that sink in. Edom didn't just refuse to help. They actively participated in Israel's destruction. They stood at the crossroads, captured Jewish refugees fleeing for their lives, and handed them over to Babylon. For what? Probably reward money. Maybe favor with the conquerors. Definitely revenge. Psalm 137:7, written by exiled Jews, captures the pain. Remember, O Lord, against the Edomites, the day of Jerusalem, how they said, destroy it, down to its foundations. They weren't just passive observers, they were cheerleaders for genocide. Ezekiel 35:5 explains God's perspective. Because you harbored an ancient hatred and delivered the Israelites over to the sword in the time of their disaster, at the final stage of their punishment. Ancient hatred. Going back to Esau and Jacob, 1,000 years of nursing a grudge, and it culminated in betrayal at the worst possible moment. The Greek word for this kind of hatred is misos, not just dislike or anger, but deep-seated, long-term hostility that seeks the destruction of its object. Edom's misos wasn't a momentary emotion. It was a national identity. God's response? Prophetic judgment with unusual intensity. Obadiah 1:2-4. Behold, I will make you small among the nations. You will be deeply despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you, O dwellers in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is the heights, who say in your heart, who can bring me down to the ground? Though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, even from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. Edom's capital, Petra, was carved into red rock cliffs virtually impregnable. Natural fortress. They trusted in their defenses. They thought geography would protect them from divine judgment. God said, watch me. Jeremiah 49:17-18. Edom will become an object of horror. Everyone who passes by will be appalled and will scoff at all her wounds. As Sodom and Gomorrah were overthrown along with their neighbors, so no one will dwell there, no man will abide there. Notice the comparison. Sodom and Gomorrah, complete, permanent desolation. But here's where the story gets really dark. Edom's hatred had one final expression. After being conquered by various empires, Edomites, called Edomians, were forcibly converted to Judaism around 125 BC. One Edomian family rose to power, the Herods. Herod the Great, who ruled Judea when Jesus was born, was an Edomite. Think about the irony. An Edomite king sitting on David's throne when the true son of David was born. History was about to come full circle. Matthew 2:16 records Herod's response to news of the Messiah's birth. When Herod saw that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was filled with rage, sending orders. He put to death all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under. The ancient hatred manifested one final time, an Edomite king trying to kill the promised Jewish Messiah, Esau trying to kill Jacob all over again, 1,000 years later. But God protected his son. Matthew 2:15 records, where he stayed until the death of Herod. Herod died. Jesus lived. Edom's final attempt to thwart God's purposes failed. And today, Edom no longer exists as a distinct people. By AD 70, when Rome destroyed Jerusalem, Edomites had been absorbed into other populations and disappeared from history. Petra stands as a tourist attraction, magnificent ruins testifying to prophetic accuracy. Obadiah's prophecy was completely fulfilled. Edom was cut off forever. Malachi 1:2-4 records God's final word. I have loved Jacob, but Esau I have hated. I turned his mountains into a wasteland and gave his inheritance to the desert jackals. Though Edom may say, we have been devastated, but we will rebuild the ruins. This is what the Lord of hosts says. They may build, but I will demolish. They will be called the land of wickedness, and the people with whom the Lord is indignant forever. So what does this mean for us? Because this isn't just ancient history. This is a warning label for the human heart. Here's what you need to do. First, examine your grudges. Write down the name of someone you're holding bitterness against. How long have you been angry? Months? Years? Decades? Edom teaches us that nursing grudges doesn't just hurt the other person. It destroys the one holding the grudge. They disappeared from history while still hating. Don't let bitterness define your legacy. Second, check your priorities. Esau traded eternal blessing for temporary comfort. What are you trading? Are you sacrificing long-term spiritual health for short-term pleasure? The stew looked good. The birthright seemed irrelevant. Until it wasn't. Ask yourself, what am I treating as profane that God calls sacred? Third, recognize critical moments. Edom's defining sin happened when Jerusalem fell. They had one chance to show mercy to family in crisis, and they chose revenge instead. You'll have moments like that, times when someone who hurt you is vulnerable, when you could either help or hurt them. Those moments reveal who you really are. Choose mercy. Fourth, refuse generational hatred. The grudge between Esau and Jacob became the hatred between Edom and Israel. Don't pass your bitterness to your children. Don't make your family conflicts your kids' inheritance. Break the cycle. Forgive not just for you, but for the generations coming after you. Fifth, remember, proximity isn't relationship. Edom was geographically close to Israel, genetically related to Israel, but spiritually opposed to Israel. Being near God's people, growing up in church, having Christian parents, none of that guarantees you're actually in covenant with God. Esau was Isaac's son, but he was godless. Don't confuse familiarity with faith, because here's the bottom line. Edom had every opportunity for blessing. They were relatives of the chosen people. They could have been allies, partners in God's purposes. Instead, they chose pride over humility, revenge over mercy, and hatred over reconciliation. And they paid the ultimate price, complete obliteration. The nation that held a 1,000-year grudge no longer exists, but the lessons remain. Some opportunities, once rejected, never return. Some relationships, once destroyed, can't be rebuilt. And some choices, like despising your birthright for a bowl of soup, echo through eternity. Don't be Edom. Don't let family wounds become generational warfare. Don't trade spiritual inheritance for temporary satisfaction. And when your brother is in crisis, don't stand at the crossroads looking for revenge, because God is watching, and He remembers. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.